What's the deal, everybody? It's Shane G. This is Politics as Usual right here on the Ethos Media Network. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe for all of the latest content. Today, what we're going to be reacting to is how quickly people will flip on their principles and flip on things that they've said as soon as, it gets a little hard for a group that they're a part of or a group that they represent. So what we're going to hear in the first half of this is Ben Shapiro basically advocating for cancel culture for anybody who is not siding with Israel right now. And then what we're going to see is Ben Shapiro basically stating the exact opposite of why cancel culture is bad and why you're allowed to disagree with people and all that good, all types of fun stuff. So, gotta love when hypocrites get exposed. So this is from the Twitter page, Turncoat Don. Make sure to follow him, and let's get into it.
Now, we've been seeing these massive marches all over the United States in favor of Hamas. If that doesn't scare the hell out of Jews, I'm not sure exactly what will. These campuses, which are supposed places of safety and openness and diversity, well, when it comes to Jewish students feeling, just a little threatened by people who are now defending mass murder of Jews, and then, of course, there's nothing to be done. Are these people who...
Okay, now real quick, I just want to point out how funny that is to me, because this is the same guy who would tell people, when black people, the whole reason that BLM, the movement, not the organization, started was because of police brutality. And we were saying, hey, we're being treated unfairly by police and they're allowed to just murder us and beat us in public and nobody says anything and, they never get in trouble and blah, blah, blah. What was his response to that? It wasn't, oh, black people are feeling unsafe and it's justified and, you should stop defending the horrific monsters that are murdering in the streets on camera in public constantly. That wasn't his stance. It was, oh, well, maybe you should stop breaking the law and maybe your culture's bad and it's the hip hop music. And, that was more so the angle he took. Crime is worse in the ghetto. That's everybody, that's black people's fault, that kind of thing. That was just rhetoric. But now that he feels that a mass murder of Jews is happening in Israel, which it's not, by the way. If you look at the numbers, way more Palestinians are getting wiped out than Jewish people, or Israelis, I should say, because, we've talked about this before. It's not really a Jewish Muslim thing. On the extremists, maybe it is, but for, it's really a land power thing. So, but with all that being said, Ben Shapiro was not defending, he wasn't defending black people, when we were making similar complaints about what the police were doing to us. He was very much pro-police in those situations. So now that it's his people that are facing some sort of oppression in Israel, mind you, they're not facing oppression in the United States on these college campuses just because people are protesting in favor of the Palestinians. That's not oppression. You know what I mean? That's not violent rhetoric towards Jewish people. That's none of those things. What it is protesting in favor of the Israeli government doing a ceasefire with the Palestinians, with Hamas specifically, because they're, the ones in charge of the whole thing. So as far as the combat operations are concerned. So it's just interesting to me that, as soon as it's his people, he wants safe spaces and he wants censorship of, we're going to get to that.
Who are marching in favor of Hamas that you would want working for your company on campuses across.
So he's advocating for firing people who don't agree with him politically. That's what that is. Let's rewind that back.
Who are marching in favor of Hamas that you would want working for your company on campuses across the nation. Jews have been.
Let's just run that back one more time. Just one more time.
What will? These campuses, which are supposed places of safety and openness and diversity, well, when it comes to Jewish students feeling, just a little threatened by people who are now defending mass murder of Jews, and then, of course, there's nothing to be done. Are these people who are marching in favor of Hamas that you would want working for your company on campuses?
So what is that? That's him advocating for the firing of people who are on the Palestinian side of the debate instead of the Israeli side. In America, he's saying that. That's interesting, right? It's funny how quick people's principles on free speech just fold. As soon as something they don't like's happening, they're like, "Nah, get rid of that. I don't like that. I don't want to hear it, and you should be punished if you say it." That's insane.
Across the nation, Jews have been surrounded. Jews are being threatened all over the world, but we got to make sure that the people who join the threats, those are the people who are protected. If they are not citizens and they support Hamas, they should be deported. These folks don't think like you.
If they're not citizens and they support Hamas, they should be deported. That's what he just said. Flat out advocating for the removal of people that he doesn't agree with politically. Insanity. It's just insanity.
They don't think like you. In the United Kingdom, Jewish students are now afraid to go to class. I know. You are in your dorm and you're ensconced there and you feel so comfortable with all your friends who tell you that you're just a great person and all your beliefs are exactly right. The last thing you want is somebody invading your campus and saying things that you disagree with, because that's just tyrannical and awful. You shouldn't have to feel like you're wrong ever. You should always feel like you're right. Well, toughen up, sweetheart.
So you get what he's saying, right? Just because people disagree with you politically doesn't mean you have the right to ban them or stop them from saying what they're saying. Totally different than what he was just saying 30 seconds ago, right?
Bottom line is that it's time for you to learn that there are lots of differing opinions. The discussion is good for you. It makes your views stronger. It makes your views more durable. It is that exchange of ideas that actually makes an intellectual community worth having. If you're not willing to engage in that intellectual community, you're in the wrong place. If you want a safe space.
So he's advocating for debating ideas. If you're on the opposite side of issues, he's saying that you should debate the ideas. So that way, you can come to a resolution. Completely against what Ben Shapiro on the right-hand side of the screen, who's obviously getting beat up here by his former self. Tan shirt Ben over here, brown shirt Ben with the black tee, he doesn't agree with red shirt Ben. Clearly, because you just heard him clearly advocate for deporting people who disagree with him and for companies not hiring people or getting rid of people who work for said companies. You just heard him advocate for those things. So now he's saying on college campuses specifically, which he was also saying, oh, people are being surrounded and all of this. There's no evidence of that. What I've, been seeing is protests, and Jewish students are just saying they're uncomfortable. Like, I mean, I'm sure that maybe some of the protests have gotten a little out of control, but to act like Jewish students all over college campuses are all of a sudden under this huge threat because of what's happening in Israel again, it's just not accurate. So
we can find a padded cell for you somewhere. If you want life to just be a giant teddy bear, go back to being a child. But if you want to be an adult in the United States of America, you're going to have to deal with the fact that there are people who disagree. And that's a good thing to discuss. There are only one group of people that want safe spaces so that they never have to hear from anybody of a different ideology or political persuasion. Those people are called fascists. Okay, and you've got a bunch of fascists, damn fascists on this campus who are trying to shut down political debate and cloister themselves in this little cocoon of stupidity so they don't have to debate anyone or think about issues outside their kin so that they can feel comfortable. Guess what? Life isn't about feeling comfortable. Life is about bettering yourself. Get off your ass, you stupid pansies. You got knocked the fuck out, man.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro putting the beats on Ben Shapiro. That was lovely. So, again, shout out to Turncoat Don. He's one of those guys that, he does videos kind of like Matt Orfala where, he just exposes hypocrisy, and I love it. So, again, we started this video with the more recent version of Ben Shapiro, who is advocating for people being fired from their jobs for not agreeing with Israel, because the way he's framing it is disingenuous. Nobody's on the fucking side of Hamas. That's ridiculous. Nobody's on the side of Hamas. What people are in favor of is either a ceasefire or the Israeli government stopping, the open air prison that they have in Gaza right now and the genocide of the Palestinians. That's what they want stopped. They're not saying Hamas are the good guys and they're morally good. Nobody's saying that. So what you're really saying is if you're against the Israeli government's actions, then you're pro-Hamas. That's not true. You could be pro-Palestinian people and not be pro-Hamas, the terrorist organization, and at the same time also understand why Hamas did what they did. If you've been being oppressed since 1947 and 2023 is when you finally react and do something devastating, that's sort of human nature. You know what I mean? We've been blowing up the Middle East for 20 years, allegedly because of what happened on 9/11, if you ask anybody in the government or the media. So we've been blowing up the Middle East for 22 years because of something that happened, They've been doing this since the 40s. So, again, what are we talking about? So, again, if you watch the last video, Benjamin Netanyahu propped up Hamas financially and rhetorically for a long time because of the fact that he knew that if the terrorists were the people who represented Palestine and not necessarily the Palestinians themselves, then nobody would want to negotiate with them, and they would never get their own state or, country. They would never have their own borders and be considered, their own entity. They would always have to be a part of Israel, and Israel has carte blanche to do whatever they want with them at that point. So that's the issue. But it's just funny to hear him say, he wants people fired for quote unquote being on the side of Hamas. Again, really just on the side of the Palestinian people, anti-Israeli government actions, and wants people deported for this. But then old Ben says, and then he's also saying how, again, Jewish students are feeling unsafe on campus because of these protests. But then he turns around and says anybody who's basically speaking about conservatives, he's speaking about lefties on campus who would protest conservative speakers, because they don't want to hear hateful rhetoric, or they don't want to hear, anti-LGBTQ rhetoric, or they don't want to hear that black culture is the reason that for crime statistics in the ghetto and, and these type of things. Because this is the type of stuff that Ben Shapiro spews. Arabs like to bomb crap, Jews are civilized, as he said in that one tweet. So these are the issues with Ben Shapiro. And it's glorious to see the hypocrisy right there. Again, follow Turncoat Don on Twitter /X if you want more hypocrisy exposed. Also follow Matt Orfala on YouTube and probably Twitter. Also, I'm not really on there that much anymore, but there you have it, man. When it's your group, all of a sudden you have all this sympathy and you want things done and censor everybody and deport and fire. But if it's another group, it's, hey, maybe you shouldn't commit so much crime and maybe police won't kill you, It's not the police being oppressors. It's you having some sort of moral failure. But when it's your people who are actually doing the slaughtering in way more numbers, then all of a sudden you like censorship and you like, deport. You like consequences for speech. So you don't believe in free speech, Ben Shapiro. And I'm glad you exposed yourself. This is Ethos Media Network. This is Shane G. This is Politics as Usual. Make sure you like, you share, and you subscribe for more content. And I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. That's all I got for y'all today. Y'all have a good one.